Yeah, baby, we're back!
We are, and
yeah.
I'm happy to have this man in the building.
As am I, and I think
Some
the
people...
fans of his show won't believe us. Or they'll try to fight us at the Russian tea room, but which happened. We'll tell you about it. But you know, this guy's been podcasting, what now, 8 years?
9 years.
9 years.
Okay.
This dude, OG MLS podcast. You've had multiple partners, and they've all died mysteriously. And now you're doing
His children haven't seen him in 9 years specifically.
9 years. You know, if you guys are Red Bull fans, even if you're not Red Bull fans, and maybe you're just a fan of MLS content, I guarantee you've seen this guy over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, unless you're driving, put your hands together for the host of Seeing Red, Mark Fishkin, everybody.
Hello.
Marky Mark.
How are you?
Marky Mark and the Red Bunch.
There you go.
Well, that's good, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I know you often do NYCFC podcasts. I mean, even though this is not specifically an NYCFC podcast, you do occasionally, like, I feel like that happens, right? Where people
During
call in.
crossover week?
Yeah, that happens occasionally. It's not like a weird thing, right?
It's not. Listen, we're focused on the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
It's 3 games a year, or in this case, 4 games a year.
Sure.
With NYCFC, and so
You had to bring up the number 4 already, huh?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think there's some Blue fans that may be a little interested in what's going on the correct side of the river. So.
All right.
I think you said the correct side of the river.
No, I said.
Well,
what made you? And I'm sure you've answered this question a bunch. What made you want to get into podcasting at the era that you did? And also, you seem to have outlasted a lot of content from that era. What made you continue?
Well, first of all, I think what made me got into it was back in the day when podcasting was just starting. I was appearing as the Red Bull guy on a couple of very nascent league-wide shows, like Around the League. There was a podcast network called the Champion Soccer Radio Network. There was actually a soccer comedy game show called Winning Ugly that was super, super fun to do. And when the Red Bulls moved into Red Bull Arena from Giant Stadium, it seemed like the perfect time to really start focusing on that team exclusively. As we know, they struggle for attention in this market. Yeah. As NYCFC does for a lot of ways as well, despite all the efforts of everyone at the club.
Yeah, a naked woman walking down Times Square would struggle for attention. This city's a lot to do. There's a lot to see in this city.
There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of teams, and there's fewer mainstream media people and time and space and inches than ever before. And so and I started doing the show in 2010 when the stadium opened. That was 4 ex-hosts ago. And I'm currently doing the show with a fantastic guy named Joe Goldstein, who also does a show called Raising Bulls on Red Bulls 2, specifically, which is pretty cool. And it's just part of the circadian rhythm of my life. It's midweek, and we're talking about the Red Bulls. And thankfully, the people at the team have been terrific in terms of getting us coaches and players and media and things like that. So
we know all about that. The team helping us.
Everyone's a big help here.
So supportive.
I'm staring right at the camera.
So supportive.
You can't hear that on the show.
But over time, just building a positive relationship with the team has been
all right,
important.
so I'll ask this. Given that you've been doing this for as long as you have, and we'll get into the specifics of the team itself,
Sure.
but being a journalist in American soccer for as long as you have,
yes.
You know, you're sort of considered one of like the OGs, right?
Yeah,
I feel
hair,
like,
man.
I feel like when
you've earned that. You've earned those stripes.
Yes.
When I look at the Twitter timeline and Mark Fishkin puts something out, even if it's something about the league in its entirety, there's like a little bit more of all right, well, we gotta listen to what this guy's saying.
That's the lieutenant speaking.
It's very kind.
So, in general, how do you feel about your time in this game so far and your contribution? And do you because I know we've been doing this for 3 years, and even to some extent, we feel like, we're making some sort of a dent or an impact in like how people view the game to some degree.
Yes.
But there's people who've been doing it a lot longer, and my hope is that when we're doing it 9 years, we're not like, oh boy, we just wasted 9 years of our life.
Right. Well, I think first of all, if you love what you do, it's not work, right? Okay. I think we all know that. And
you are talking to 2 stand-up comedians.
There you go. So you know.
No, it's not work because you have to get paid in order for it to be considered work.
Yeah. But at the beginning and end of the day, it's serving an audience that has a need.
Right.
Right? The game ends And short of going on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and venting your spleen, there isn't really a whole lot of other places you can go to interact with like-minded fans about the game, and about the team specifically. So for us, we're providing. It's a public service in some way because there's so little mainstream media coverage of this team. And I've had back and forths with editorial staffs at the area's great newspapers, large and small, and they basically say, not enough people care. Sorry. So for me, because I like to think myself as plugged into this fan base, I don't always agree with everyone in the fan base, and they certainly don't always agree with me. Alex Muil is a case in point. But but by and large, I really feel like it's important to continually serve them, to be there every week. I'm going
to just do the Alex Muil right now. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't hear anything Mark's saying right now.
There are some weeks where, because real life intervenes, we can't do the show, and we hear it. What's going on? Where are you guys? What's going on? So we know we're an important part of people's lives, and really that's what helps me come back every week.
Okay.
And every season.
What have you noticed? Maybe just like one or two things that you think has changed in the league that is in your time that's for the positive, and some things that you think are for the negative.
Sure. For the positive, I think the investment in youth development has been a massive thing. I mean, remember,
and you guys, look, to give you guys some plaudits, Red Bull lead the charge.
It's been a chief driver in terms of how successful. Yeah, I like
lead
that.
The charge.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
it's been a chief driver in terms of.
Show's over.
Close it up. Thank you, Mark, for being here. We're
not going to top that. So we just have to end right now.
There you go. But the two teams have been really important to the success of the first team, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, where the whole franchise in particular has swung that way. That said, I think the only way that MLS is going to continue its upward growth potential, especially in a world where the league is built out, right? We're going to get there soon.
Yeah.
And the critics of the league that decry it as a Ponzi scheme that only exists on the backs of expansion fees, at a certain point there won't be any more of those. And so, the more billionaires you attract to this league, and multimillionaires and massively famous ownership groups like LAFC has, I think there's a real real notion that those folks now have to turn their attention to digging into the youth in those markets. And outside those markets, there are only 20 U.S.-based teams this year. There are a lot more than 20 strong youth soccer markets, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And so for like Salt Lake is doing, they have an academy in Arizona that actually funnels people to the big club in Utah, right? I know in the eastern part of the country, our cities are all jam-packed close to each other, and the geographical territories with NYC and Red Bull and Philadelphia, frankly, for that matter, kind of are right on top of each other.
Yeah.
But you move out of the eastern seaboard, there's a lot of room for a lot of kids to be getting really good professional development. So that's one thing that I really like that's definitely changed since we started. The thing that I like less is the continued lack of transparency about how the business is done. And being that we're inside this American soccer bubble, we know that there's, whether they're a vocal minority or a vocal large minority, there are a lot of people that despise everything that the league stands for because of their business practices. And I'm not saying that, I'm not going to say the bro-frel word here,
Yeah.
so people doing the semantic search won't be able to see that. But there are ways, aside from doing that MLS and U.S. soccer can really start to overcome the massive amount of frustration that's built up by a lot of American soccer fans about how the game's run in this country.
Is there any particular thing that should be more transparent that is not? I mean, I know when we were at MLS Cup, Alexi Lalas asked the question of Garber about the Columbus Crew, and wasn't it disingenuous that they didn't mention that there was a provision to move the team to Austin, and Garber
it got sticky when those cameras got turned off.
He was not happy with that question.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
and certainly the wording of it.
Well, and good for Lawless for asking it. I know a lot of people deride him as being kind of clowny, but he also is a bit of a bomb thrower too, and he's comfortable in that situation. For me, we're just watching now. NBA free agency just opened.
Sure.
Yeah.
This week, right?
Which is more important than the World Cup.
Not in my house.
According
But
to
And they're all
ESPN.
taking the Real Madrid Barcelona model in NBA.
well, that's right. And so you have LeBron going to the Lakers 4 years and X amount of money. No MLS contract terms are shared publicly.
Yeah.
They're starting to share, yes, this $400,000 chit is now being exchanged between teams, and that's great. Yeah. But, Sean Davis of the Red Bulls, I know NYCFC fans know him, right? Know who he is? Yeah.
Akira?
Okay.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
We might have heard of him.
But, he signed a new deal. And until the Players Union releases this is what the size of his current salary is, nobody knows. It's a new deal. For how many more years? I don't know. How much money? I don't know. And so when you're talking about fans that want to get that next level engagement with the team, it has to be a little more than here are the players and here's the youth. And when a player gets sold, we certainly know that. But it's hard to talk hot stove and it's hard to adequately value deals within the league if we literally don't know this is his, this is player X's option year. He's got to show now, right?
Right.
Because he doesn't know whether he's going to have a job with this team next year. And that just is muted.
Okay.
Across the league. So that's one thing that changed.
Yeah, we just focus on like, oh, did he rent a house on 48th Street?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I think based on okay, his girlfriend
Stalk that Instagram feed and get an idea.
So like he's definitely
like he's making an
he's
investment.
doing okay.
It's a doorman. I mean, that's clearly, I think one of the toughest things for us being fans,
playing Red Bulls?
No.
Okay.
Again, we're universal. We are
right.
national
I see that
podcast.
shirt over there.
Yeah,
I see that.
Shout out to Dudes in Blue. They sent us.
Yeah.
That's nice. That via 400 goals.
There you go.
Yeah.
Not
Like
all
again,
with NYC.
Like again, we're impartial. But we're fans of the league, right?
Yes, as am I.
And we've been fans of the league. I followed the league a little bit beforehand. And Christian, bits and pieces. Certainly, we came into the league with NYCFC, so we don't hide from that. But look, in the last 3 years, we've noticed, or last 3.5 years, we've noticed some things change. We've noticed some things get more open. I think for us, one of the big frustrations is it does seem like sometimes you're sort of just yelling into the ether. You're yelling into a void, and nothing's ever coming back to you. Every once in a while, we get some stuff back, certainly when you start. You've seen this for a long time.
Yeah.
We're noticing in the last year and a half. It might just be us. It might not. That's what I'm asking. Like, it seems like there's so much more attention being put on the league. So many more people are coming to the league. Are you noticing that as well?
Through my lens, I would say no, frankly.
Okay.
But again, I have a very specific team-specific lens. Yes, obviously Atlanta's blowing everyone away. I mean, they're Atlanta, they're Seattle of 2018, right? Yeah. And 8 years ago, 9 years ago, it was Seattle blowing everyone away. I think when Zlatan comes and scores that ridiculous goal, people's antenna perk up for just 1 second, right? But I think the larger question is, do we want to be known as the retirement homes for the Wayne Rooneys and the Zlatan Ibrahimovic's, or if Tyler Adams jumps,
according to Red Bull team tifos, they make it very clear they don't want that with the Pirlo and Lampard tifo.
Yeah. Well, which was wonderful. And listen,
oh, was it?
I think it brought a lot of attention to the league.
Certainly.
So
and there's no way that NYC fans can look back fondly on Lampard's time here and be like, this was wonderful.
Well, Lampard at least scored a couple goals. Pirlo, complete failure.
That jump.
Yeah.
That jump on that free
Sold
kick.
a couple tickets. Yeah. That was cool. That was nice of him.
Well, and that's...
Somebody cheered for him. That was kind of cool.
And that's something to consider as well, right? Yeah. It's year 4 for you guys. And there's no illusion that the Red Bulls are having trouble bringing fans in this year. And I have some good reasons why that is. City's attendance isn't killing it either.
No.
And I think part of that is because of the role of the media in the market. Part of it is less so for the red side, but I see plenty of blue gear walking around when I walk around Manhattan. But general awareness of this is a quality entertainment product and quality soccer product, and I want to invest my time on a weekly, bi-weekly basis to go see this. It struggles.
Yeah, but during the World Cup, I feel like across the league in its entirety, there's been more attentive. You see more people there. I mean, the last Red Bull home game I saw, there were just a lot more people there.
Yep.
I forgot who they played. But so let's talk about these two teams.
Okay.
And how they match up against each other.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Our times at Red Bull Arena this year have not been too fun.
Did they shut off the air conditioner in here? It seems to be
I even went and I hung out with some friends from Timbers Army that played when the Timbers went into Red Bull Arena.
Yeah, they didn't score a goal either.
And also were scored 4. Every time I go, they score 4 goals.
Stop going.
Please come. Please come.
Stop going to the game.
You're going to be there Sunday.
This is your rabbit's foot right here.
I'm sorry, NYCFC. I'm sorry, Portland. I never thought I would have to apologize to Portland, but I have to. Look, clearly this year in particular, we're seeing from the first few seconds of the game, NYCFC apparently, I don't know if there's like a, hey guys, Jesse Marsh in the locker room was like, hey, look, let's do that thing where we score like immediately so that we can kind of crush their spirits early on.
Or was it Patrick Vieira being like, it'd be funny if we let him score right away every time? We'll get it back.
That kind of performance leads you his job in the great clubs of Europe. Or Nice.
So there's a lot of tension between the two teams, but I feel like a lot of things are going on between them, right? So how about we start with Patrick Vieira leaving and Jesse Marsh on the potential potential move. So do you know anything about that, or it could be? I don't know how strong. It doesn't feel like just a rumor anymore.
Well, I think when you have a coach that is actively leaving his team for 18 months to go take UEFA coaching license courses, it's pretty plain. He's made it very clear what his ambition is. There are some people that have pilloried him for that, and there are some people that have said, well, players say, I want to play in Europe all the time.
Sure.
And we tend not to give them a whole lot of crap. The Red Bulls are having their best first half ever.
Yeah.
They're 10-4-2. On the season, and they're averaging 2 points a game. They have the top goal differential in the league. So on one hand, it's kind of like, yeah, boy, that would really stink if Jesse leaves. On the other hand, he's having the best year ever. So I definitely get the sense that at the very least after this season, I can see a number of wholesale changes to the team. A, Jesse will probably go. B, Tyler Adams will be sold.
He said already he's gone, right? Or did it come out?
No, it's not been officially announced that he's leaving. Yeah. And C, I expect Tim Parker to test the international waters as well. His contract is up at the end of the year, and the Red Bulls knew that when they acquired him from Vancouver for Felipe. And I imagine that they've been talking to him the whole time. The fact that he's now getting U.S. men's national team minutes in Europe is like, hey, no, don't play him. No, just keep him here. But he's coming to his own. He's a terrific player, a very strong player, and I sense that he will be gone as well.
Okay, so I guess I want to get to like how psychologically prepared are, because I know we hung out with Luis Robles the other couple months ago.
You're welcome.
He's a phenomenal human being.
He's a great guy.
Great dude.
Very funny too.
Yeah. And just after the game, who'd you guys play last?
We were in Toronto this weekend.
In Toronto,
where we shut them out at home.
Yes, and after the game, I know Robles said, we're going to go to Yankee Stadium and get 3 points over at the blue side, and people are very happy that he even refers to NYCFC as the blue side. But the mentality going into these games, clearly NYCFC is, as much as the fan base is trying to get like hype and even like tries to support the team, like, yo, guys, this is the one game, because they play well against everyone else in the league.
Do they?
Except
they're having a good season. They're having a good season.
That is
stop.
They're having a good season.
I feel like that's a factual statement.
Yes, you're correct. They're a good team.
So
1 point away from you guys.
What do you think the difference is in the mentality towards this game between the two teams?
I think the real key is going to be really who Torrent is and what he can bring to his first derby match.
Yeah.
The history is there, right? They've been outscored 8-0 in 2 games this season. New York's game, as we all know, is score real fast, which they did at Toronto in the 4th minute this weekend, and then press you to death. I can't say that I've focused too much on what Torrent has done in the 2 games of work. I know you guys fell behind in both games.
Yes,
came back against a Toronto team that frankly isn't doing so great. And Chicago is a bogey team, I think, for both Red Bulls and NYC. They are. I don't want to play them in the playoffs.
Jax likes to beat everybody from this region.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So I just think it'll be interesting as the NYC players figure out what Torrent wants. I know, for instance, Alexander Ring is pushing up the field a whole lot more than he had, not really serving as that destroyer in the center, but a little freedom to move further up, and what that means for Adams and Davis as they attempt to contain him as well, along with Morales. And whether Birgit, the superhero, shows up or Birgit, the anonymous.
That's his favorite player.
Yeah. Okay.
Send him to the red side if you want.
No, you're not a fan?
Not a fan.
Well, he certainly knows his New York maps because he made that great comment about how he believes that the Red Bulls really want to be a New York team. And for a guy from Norway to say that, there's a ton of credit.
Norway firing shots.
I mean, here's the
thing.
thing.
No guns are allowed in Norway, but he's firing shots.
Off the field, I agree with everything this dude said. He's like, he marched
he's in
for.
there.
Yeah, he's a very progressive dude.
I'm sure
I like a lot. Yeah, I like him a lot.
It raises a question that you just said. Like, do you think they'll ever be a trade between the two teams?
I would hope not.
You wouldn't know.
Well, I mean, you already got Mehdi Bellucci.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You already had Jason Hernandez come through. Original, last Metro star playing in the league.
Yeah.
And the Red Bulls knocked him out this weekend in Toronto.
Physically, like they punched him.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think he got hurt, right?
He got hurt.
This is a whole
didn't
new
knock him out. Miles Joseph is on your coaching staff, if I'm not correct.
Okay.
Former Metro star.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of mixing, but I mean, I don't like it when players move between the Giants and Jets. I don't care for it when players move between the Yankees and Mets. I would hate to see a trade between the two teams. Like, not good. And I think, for better or worse, I think Marsh and Dennis Hamlet understand the meaning behind this rivalry. And at a time when DC United has been kind of crappy for most of this decade, to be able to plant a flag and say, these are the 3 games that we absolutely have to win this season if we're going to consider the season a success, because we know the team's postseason history. We can't get away from it.
Is NYCFC now a bigger rival than DC?
Yes, for me. So I've been there since year 1 in the Meadowlands in '96. I was there for that.
I was there for that too, by the way. I
that
went
was
to a couple games. Yeah, that was me. I was one of the only 7 other people.
brown hair at that time for me. But I was there for that amazing playoff series in '96 between the two teams that really kind of cemented that this is the real big rivalry. There are a lot fewer old school '96 Metro guys than ever before, right? Because every year they gravitate away, or it's just been so long, or they don't like this brand, or whatever. There have been a lot more Red Bull fans that have come in since Red Bull Arena. We know it from who our listenership is, people that gravitate, and they're like, yeah, when the arena got built, it was really great, let's go do it. So for them,
they're hopped up on Red Bull.
They're hopped up.
I love this arena.
That's right. They're hopped up.
Why will my heart stop?
That's right. They're hopped up on goofballs and Turin, and for them, it's NYC. Now, keep in mind the vagaries of the MLS schedule, and because DC United is opening their stadium later this month, the Red Bulls haven't played DC United yet.
Yeah.
All right.
So they'll and DC and NYC are the only teams that the Red Bulls play 3 times this season. So we haven't played DC yet. The season's half over. So it'll be really interesting as Wayne Rooney gets going and as the playoff push really starts. And mea culpa, but I would think that both the red team and the blue team will make the postseason, unless the wheels come off of one of them or both of them. But DC United having 15 of 17 their last 17 games at home, and with Wayne Rooney, who's I'm sure will be a quality MLS striker, they're going to be a speed bump for the Red Bulls for sure.
We went to the Champions League game against Chivas.
Yeah, that was awesome.
There's that sarcasm.
How did you feel about that run? I mean, a lot of people were generally, especially NYCFC fans, a lot were like, I want the Red Bulls to lose, which makes all the sense in the world.
Yep.
We were kind of more...
we were hoping you guys got
make the final.
More money, but then lose there, just to waste your guy, waste the energy.
But we were sort of hoping, even when Toronto got to the final, it would be good for the league, obviously.
Yes,
what was your take on that run in the Champions League and how it ended up?
Is it a positive for you guys?
I think as the sick feeling of being unable to score a goal at home kind of washes out of your system months later, I think the team will look back on it as being a tremendous positive. They were playing hardcore playoff games in March, right? And when it comes to November, that muscle memory, maybe not the result, but you have to remember they beat a Mexican team in Mexico, right? Yeah. And yes, Luis Robles had to stand on his head, but they got a 2-0 win in Mexico against the Liga MX's team. That hasn't happened so often, right? They got by Olympia of Honduras, and they played Chivas, who is the eventual champion, to a standstill. And so the one thing that I'm hoping the Red Bulls take away from this for the postseason is Jesse Marsh, and I think a lot of coaches sometimes can be addicted to tinkering with their lineup when it's crunch time.
Okay.
We've seen it a number of times out of Marsh in terms of whether it's squad rotation or whether it's, I really need a goal in this game. I'm going to do something that they're not expecting. Well, the Red Bull way has a +18 in MLS and has won 10 of 16 games. So at a time when the margin of error shrinks to 0, don't monkey.
Yeah.
Trust. This is what brung you here.
Yeah, your old
play
coach is,
your game.
Your old coach just did that in the World Cup. Sorry, I was doing that with Mexico.
Well, that's right. That is
the ultimate tinkerer.
Senior notebook. Right. That's right. So when the Red Bulls get to the playoffs, they will look back on their CCL adventure and think, yeah, this is good. I mean, I would have preferred if they had gone a little bit deeper in the Open Cup as well, but they had that magnificent run to the final last year, came up 1 goal short, as they often do in the postseason. And I think those experiences, plus a lot of the young core of this team, won the USL Cup in 2016.
Yeah.
Right? Long, Velo, Davis, Adams, Bezecourt, if and when he gets healthy again. So
Mines wasn't there yet.
Mines wasn't. He played some out of the academy in 16.
He lost. I know he posted something saying that it was like a heartbreaker that when he lost to Louisville City. That was last year.
Yeah, he missed the PK that would have sent them back to USL Cup.
Yeah.
But that belief, it's like, we're a really good team.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid of anybody.
Well, even in the beginning of the year, throughout the Champions League run, it was children playing.
We are children. Check his papers.
I was not even not playing the kids. These are toddlers out there playing, and they were dominating, and they were winning games that I mean, we saw with Toronto.
Sitting on the bench doing their homework.
Put me in, coach. I finished my math.
I just finished my algebra. Come on. Don't step on my diorama.
But that is
You did math dioramas?
I
have like the science with the
that was
the
a different player. You gotta
okay.
stick with the characters.
All right. Okay.
But there must be that
Math
sense
dioramas.
of comfort that even if, God forbid, an injury or something, that
next man up.
Next man up is a child, and they might be perfectly fine.
Well, this was our frustration. From day one, we've been saying new teams like NYCFC need to have a 2-team.
They need to.
Atlanta has now a 2-team.
They do.
That's, I think Red Bull, there was a lot of teams that started and took them away. Red Bull, when I think started, people were like, what is this about? Like, who cares? No one's going to go watch it, blah, blah, blah. I think it takes like a good 2 or 3 years, clearly. And all of a sudden, these kids are able to come right up to the first team, and they've played those games where like a lot is on the line. They're that speed and that pace. Yeah. There's something they're much more familiar with. I think there's a lot of teams that could certainly use it. NYCFC certainly absolutely needs one. I don't know why they're dragging their feet with it. I think it's where they're going to play.
Because the answer, is where would they play, which is a popular and timely question around your franchise.
The first team is having an issue about where they're going to play.
On the infield of Yonkers Raceway?
Yeah, fine.
People are like, they'll play in Westchester.
That's better than what we have now.
There's no room. There's no room.
There's room in Westchester. I've been there before. The roof of the mall. All right? Banging around a little bit. Watch out for the air conditioning.
You're going to lose a couple balls.
Yeah. The highway's going to be very upset about it.
Born and raised. But let me tell you, I mean, unless they're playing at SUNY Purchase or at Manhattanville or Pace on a college football field.
Well, what about their new training center that they just built in Orange?
On the west side of the river?
Yeah. Orangeburg.
Yes, it's in Rockland County.
Yeah, it's Rockland.
Is it? Well, whatever. That's New York State. That's allowed. At least it's the state, buddy. I mean, you got the name on the thing, and you're in Jersey. All right.
So I want to ask before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to have a question as well. So go ahead.
Okay.
Don't fight, boys.
It's just all this NYCFC infighting is just a clear example.
Can't you guys get yourself together and then we can?
We need to get our house in order.
That's right.
Could you give us a minute, Mark?
We hung out with Dax McCarty over at
Punch Bowl.
Fruit Bowl.
Fruit Bowl, excuse
Fruit
me.
Bowl,
Yeah, I remember.
Although he can use it for whatever he wants.
Feel free to put
It's a
punch
gift,
in
buddy.
it.
It's a gift.
It's a very small punch bowl, but you can have a good time
Punch
with it.
for one, my
Punch
guy.
for one.
The last few years, Rebels have made those big moves where they've gotten rid of players that were beloved by the team, by the fan
Traded the
base.
captain 2 years in a row.
Yes.
Yeah, Sasha Kljestan, Dax McCarty. Now, in hindsight, it looks like, all right, well, they knew something we didn't.
You guys are like, sell everybody.
Right.
At the time, how'd you feel when it happened, and how do you feel now?
Well, I think part of the reason, frankly, that there may be a few more empty seats at Red Bull Arena this year is this is the Dax McCarty trade effect. Dax was traded in January of 2017 after all the season tickets had been sold. And so now I believe you're seeing the result of people saying that's, you can't, I'm done. I'm out. And I know quite a few people that have said that.
Dax's family members?
Notwithstanding Dax's family
Where's all
members.
the redheads in the stadium?
Right. I mean, listen, there are very few players that have ever kissed the badge after scoring a goal because of the modern football branding Michigas over this logo.
Got it.
Dax scored a goal that knocked out DC United at RFK Stadium in the playoff game, and he kissed the badge. And for a lot of people, for me, that was really a big moment to kind of say, you know what? Yeah, this is my team. And this team has done so much for me, and I'm all in, right? Trading him was incredibly painful. It was incredibly painful. But
painful for him. He found out during his wedding.
Incredibly painful for everybody.
They're like, do you take this? I do what?
Right. Right.
At your
But
phone.
then he got a fruit bowl. And he was like, you know what? I'm all
It's
right.
not
I'll be
that
fine.
bad.
You know, sometimes things work out. And he burned his contract, his old contract, in that Fruit Bowl.
There you go. Multiple uses.
Yeah.
And then the team traded Sasha again, and I think the message from the front office was, trust us, because we have a vision about what we want this team to be. And you can make the argument that Tyler Adams isn't the player that Tyler Adams is today unless Dax McCarty gets traded, or unless Sasha Kljestan gets traded, right? Or Kaku doesn't come in, who's leading the league in assists, just like Sasha Kljestan did the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So I get it. I hope it's truly not an annual event, because soon it's going to be the U15s playing at Red Bull Arena.
It's wearing on your soul
A little bit, just kind of like,
or every time somebody becomes captain, you're like, well, it was nice to know.
well, and that's, I mean, that's the
Rip the
joke.
armband off.
Right. Hey, no thanks.
Yeah.
I'm all good. I'll just be a foot soldier. But you can't argue with the results. The team is playing very, very well. They're looking forward, obviously, to the weekend. They've had a lot of success against everybody this year. They're conceding only a goal a game. 4 of the 16 goals they've conceded were in one match in Orlando, which was bonkers. I mean, right when Robles gets basically pushed, bodied into the net on a corner kick that somehow was allowed, which makes
That's allowed in Orlando.
all right.
Dominic Dwyer's allowed to do whatever he
Yeah.
wants.
Okay. Well, who knew?
But speaking on the subject of losing players, you guys went through, the Thierry Henry, Rafa Marquez. What was the bald dude's name that almost hit a chick in a wheelchair, a girl in a wheelchair in the stands?
Luke Rogers?
Yes, that was his name, Luke Rogers. That dude was a nutbag, right?
He was
All
great.
right. I barely watched, but I'm like, I think this dude's off his rocker.
He was crazy.
He was a maniac, right? They didn't let him back in the country because he fought a guy, right?
He actually overstayed his visa because he stayed for the playoffs.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He overstayed his visa, and then he went back, and they're like, "You can't do that, dude. You gotta check in."
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought it was because somebody said he tried to knife a dude. All right. Well, there was just
What
there's
a
a
wild
lot of
difference.
rumors about this guy. This dude's very English. This guy
Yes.
was very
Yes.
very English. But all right. So you had that era where you were buying big players and Luke Rogers, and and now you have this era where you're getting rid of some of your bigger players, but you have all these youth players that are coming in. The team, from our standpoint, seems like it must be more fun to watch now from the fans, but there seems to be less fans because of those moves. If you had to pick one, would you rather have the big names and maybe fill the seats in a little more, or would you rather have it the way it's going now?
I really, really, really want an MLS Cup title for this team. Once that happens, we can have the conversation again. But for right now, it's literally win the goddamn last game of the season, because over the last 2 or 3 years, you can make the argument they've been one of the best teams in the league, right? They haven't missed the playoffs since 2009. Only Seattle can make that boast. You know, they have to figure out how not to commit harry-carry once they get to the postseason. But by and large,
BWP got to learn how to score in the post.
Well, or with Sasha missing a penalty, and I talked to Sasha after that season ender last year, and I said, "What is it about you? Like, why do you guys can't do this? Because you do it fine during the regular season.
Why are you taking penalties?
Why'd you do that?
You know, and his
you know that's not you.
And his response was, you know, we all want to be the first team to finally deliver the title of this team to this fan base, and if something goes wrong, it makes it very difficult to come back. So to your answer, it's no. To younger players, more anonymous team. The team is the star, except for Bradley Wright Phillips, who has 97 goals all-time in MLS. Right. And with a hat trick this weekend, he can get to 100, which would be phenomenal.
Well, Davi has 400. My shirt says.
For NYCFC?
Yeah. You might have missed a couple of those games.
Oh, okay.
We count preseason.
Is he playing this week?
We also count FIFA. There's an E-League now.
It's okay.
He's really good.
He is really good.
He does 90-minute halves.
Like we said, MLS needs more transparency, but this is the number that they put out.
Okay. Look, you know, it might be Tam a little bit in there. We don't know, okay?
Tam is at least 70 to 80 of those goals.
Well, the game, the Hudson River Derby is this weekend, July 8th. That's Sunday, right?
7 o'clock.
Yes. And to all the fans listening that are Red Bull fans, you're welcome. Look, we've had players on. We're having content. And to all the NYCFC fans, I'm sorry you had to listen to that commercial for the last half hour. But the guy's great. He does a great job. He's nice to us, which not all Red Bull fans are. And we absolutely love all the content you're doing. And I know you were trying to go 5 days a week, but listen, anything you put out,
thanks, man.
It's really good. Look, we're not Red Bull fans, but we think what you're doing is great. More people need to do what you're doing.
I think that every team in MLS needs to have at least one super strong, locally team-focused pod. The good news is, in this age of citizen media, it's not hard to do. The key to building credibility is to be there every week. Just be consistent, generate a voice, own your personality, and I love what you're doing, and thank you so much for having me.
Where can people find all your content?
Sure. It's at the very strangely worded website, seeingredny.com. We're Seeing Red NY on Facebook. We're Seeing Red NY on Twitter. The pod is available on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and Spotify and anywhere you get your pods. We've been doing it for 9 years. Next year is the big 10th anniversary season.
Oh, man.
And so, yeah, come check it out if you dare.
Let us know if you need us to show up to one of the live events outside Red Bull Arena for you.
We'd love it.
We just need security detail in case.
I can't wait to see. I don't know, Mark, have you done that? I've watched some of those Metro Fan TV.
Yes.
Have you done that yet?
I am usually with my family at games.
Okay.
So the idea of, hey, honey and kids, let's hang out for a half hour, and then I'm going to stand here and yell into a camera. But the Metro Fan TV guys are terrific, and it's wonderful, fun fan content, and
I would love
really
to see Mark just screaming into the camera.
Yeah. I'll tell you what's wrong, blood. Yeah. When did Mark get an English accent? You know?
Mark Fishkin, thank you so much for coming by. All right, guys, we'll be right back after this.